Hi everybody, Eve Everett here, and this time around we're going to talk about what's sold on eBay, the weird, the easy stuff, the hobby and craft fast movers, and just some basic all-around retooling of business matters. And also, someone invaded my personal space at the Weigh and Go. But first, a few minor points of interest. Here's my Jerry Bruckheimer-ish tree shot, driving back from visiting a customer that I bought some vintage items from. Nice drive. Very, as you can see, country-like area. Pretty cool. Second thing, as you know, had this wee bit of a almost altercation the other day. I was talking to some friends while the running of the bulls took place. You know, that's when they put out the quote-unquote new bins of stuff to for people to go through. And, you know, people run forward and are all excited and they dig through. And I have to say, it seems that things are a little more desperate at the bins than things have been in the past. What do you think if you go to the bins? In any event, I was at one. So after that, I let that go by simply because I was chatting. And afterwards, I went up, I saw like a pair of sandals or something I was interested in, and I rested my hand on a pair of boots that I was thinking about, but probably leaning more towards no. And so I'm at one corner of the bin, there's two other people at the opposite corner, and then some lady walks past them, walks literally up to me, maybe a half inch from me, and puts her arm like across my shoulder, touches my chin, which I think is what really set me off, reaches down and tries to take the boots like from my resting hand. And she's like, oh, excuse me, I just want to grab these boots. I'm like, you're not grabbing anything. And she's like, excuse me? I'm like, you heard me. I said, you're not going to invade my personal space, physically touch me, and grab a pair of boots that's under my hands. Not going to happen. She's like, well, I just wanted the boots. And I said to her, look, I don't care what you want. You're rude, and this is my personal area, this little personal area right here where I'm looking at something, and you're just going to have to wait. And she's like, oh, excuse me? I said, you heard me. You're going to have to wait. As in, wait. So she didn't like that. She's like, I can't even believe this. I just want the boots. I said, you're never getting them now because I'm putting them in my cart. She's like, oh, and she cursed at me, and I was like, oh, classy. And she got very upset and ended up stalking off, and she kind of even like did some eye movements to her friend, and her friend didn't want to get involved at all, obviously because this person was just being totally rude. I was really upset about it, but I felt like, you know, I had to stand up for myself. That's just, don't be touching my chin. That's just, ugh, I don't know, it's just strange, very strange. I think at one point I even called her like a parasite. Anyway, so eventually I ended up throwing the boots back into another bin anyway because they were damaged. Like they had been exposed to probably a rainstorm, which did not bode well for them. And it was a Morona crappy like brand anyway. So I don't know whether she got them or not. I paid for the things that I got, which I was happy to get, and I took off. So that's my almost got into a tiff sort of story at the Weigh and Go, which, let's face it, if you've been at the Weigh and Go long enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I just hope that that would never happen to me, but what are you going to do? Look, all I'm going to say here is not my bun. My bun does not tear up everything in sight, but the rabbit does look really pleased with itself. And for those who asked, here's a picture of Bun. Bun, as you know, if you've been watching my videos, is like my hero. She's, or heroine, I guess it is. She has been a really awesome, like, you know, is there somebody in the well lassie type of Bun. It's just strange to have an animal kind of look out for you if you're not feeling well. As you know, or you may have heard, a couple months ago, had some sort of blood pressure, possible issue, something, and I passed out, and I came to because Bunny was thumping her cage trying to get me help. And anyway, I don't know. I just really like my rabbit. And the funny thing is, if you ever owned a rabbit before, depending on their personality, they're just like a big lump of rabbit. They just kind of sit there. But she really has her own personality. Anyway, here she is waiting for a treat. Good old Bun. Okay, sorry, I know most of you are not here to watch me or rave about the rabbit, so moving on. Okay, I did promise you something weird, and the first and one of the best that I've put up that has been weird is this pair of Victorian slippers. So I know what you're saying. All right, what's so weird about that? Well, what's weird about these is you wouldn't wear these in the Victorian era to a ballroom. You would wear these to your funeral in a coffin. Yes, these are funeral slippers. And what's rare about these is A, someone kept them, and they were also in very good shape. The bidder that I went up against for these at a specialty textile auction bid me up with the premium. I ended paying about $185 for them. They did have a little bit of fading to the sides, but otherwise they were exactly as they appear here. I swear that was not planned. The giveaway as to why these are funeral slippers is the gathering that you see where the ankles would be. So anyway, these were in really good condition. They ended up selling to a museum in Montana for $325. So it wasn't the best return I've ever had on an item, but it was certainly an interesting item. It was something I was thinking about keeping. I did keep them for a while, posted them, and they took me actually almost a year to sell. But I was happy to see them go to a museum because they probably belong there. All right, here you'll see the side view of these funeral slippers. As you can see, even in this picture, the sides are somewhat faded compared to the fronts of these shoes. The auction house that this auction took place in was lit, but not as well lit as it could have been. And had I had a flashlight with me and perhaps been paying better attention, I would have caught this and perhaps adjusted my bidding accordingly. You know, of course, in retrospect, I say that, but at the time, I really was in love with these, so it might not have mattered. But in any event, anytime you go on an auction, it's really important that you calm down, savor the excitement and the fun of it literally for like 3 minutes, because you're there to do work. I know some people say, oh, auctions are so fun. You must really have fun at an auction. I say I have fun for 2% of the time, 98% of the time. It's either networking or I'm working. I mean, it's work. I'm not there to have fun and be entertained. I'm there to work. And that's the mentality you have to take, because you can end up making huge mistakes if you get carried away. Or even distracted. It really doesn't take much to make a mistake. This is a mistake. Had I paid better attention, I would have seen the fading. More likely than not, I would have probably adjusted my strategy a little bit. But in any event, other advice I have for you is bring a mobile device. They're not that expensive anymore. Or even if you're writing it down on your bidding paddle, you gotta keep track of every winning lot that you win. Because remember, your winning bid does not include a premium. So unless you're keeping track of everything, you're going to go way over your budget if you're not careful, because the premium is going to be tacked on. You're going to be like, what happened? And your future self is going to thank you if you be meticulous about writing things down, especially when the action is really fast, when the auctioneer is very fast and you're going through a lot of lots in a very short period of time. It's really, really important that you don't get distracted. You stay on top of everything and you write everything you win down and check it probably every half hour or 45 minutes to make sure, especially if you have a budget that's, you don't have a lot of room. You really have to stay on track. I had a situation where I got about $1,200 more in the hole than I thought I was, and my partner came up to me and said, "This is what I have," and I said, "I don't have that. I have a lot less." He's like, "No, that's wrong." And I'm like, "Oh crap, you're right. I missed writing a few down." It really doesn't take much to really get off the rails, and fortunately, it ended up being fine, and I attended the whole auction and we got what we wanted. But yeah, if I kept going on like that all day, imagine the disaster that would have happened. So you don't want to be in that position, and it's just important that, especially if you're new to going to auctions, or if you're at an auction where the play is really deep and the lots are going for more money than you're used to spending, you really have to stay on your toes and just be focused on what's going on and just keep on top of what you've won. Here we have a Natasha Foucault signed silk hand-painted tunic shirt with some landscape, bridges, buildings, automobiles, and so forth. She's a well-known silk painter. She's a listed artist and has won various awards, so forth and so on. I actually got this at a church, let's say it's like a thrift shop sale, once a year thing that this particular church does. I picked that up there for $20, and it took me about a year and a half to sell this. I started it at $2.99 and I sold it for $199.99. Here we have a vintage Syrian Arab blue, red, and gold striped runner. Right about 63 inches by 29 inches wide. Could be a prayer rug, early 20th century. Had no tassels on it, some stains. Had seen some damage. However, I was hoping to make more on it than I did. I ended up letting it go for $39.99, and it took me about like a year and 2 days or so, plus or minus, to move. One thing you have to be careful about when selling textiles and things from the Arab world, there are still various bans and embargoes as to what you can sell. Technically, if you're not careful, you might sell something that you're not allowed to sell in the United States or wherever you live. So just take a quick lean through the rules to make sure that you're not accidentally selling something from the Middle East that you're purportedly barred from being able to offer. It happens. Here we have a vintage Mego Spider-Man from 1974. This poor guy was a mess. He had writing on his front. Some kids went hog wild with him. Just goes to show that sometimes you can pick up a not so perfect action figure and not do too shabby. I listed this for $34.99 and took a best offer of $20 for it, given the damage that it did have. And that took me a little under 2 months to move. Shipped that to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Alright, and next we have a lot of vintage Hazel Atlas red candy striped milk glass tumblers. These ran about 5 inches tall, and I posted these and they sold easily under a month. If you go look at the comparables for the striped milk glass tumblers from Hazel Atlas on eBay, you'll see that they do pretty well when they're sold in lots. I did list these initially for around $80, I think, and I ended up selling these for $45 plus shipping. And like I said, it took me under a month to move to 6 of those. Don't recall if I said or not, but I had actually quite a few of these, and I just told you about the lot of 6. Here's the lot of 8 that I sold. I listed these for, I think, around like $100, and I accepted a best offer of $60 plus shipping. If I had waited on these, I definitely would have gotten more. I'm sure if you go look, you'll see where people have done better. I just didn't feel like waiting, and since I was able to unload both of these sets in a little under a month, probably a good move. So there you have it, Hazel Atlas striped glasses. Keep an eye out for them. This is a antique flow blue transferware plate, about 9 3/4 wide, pretty deep. So I also described it as a bowl. Had a lot of crazing and cracks to it. Probably dates somewhere to the 1820s, possibly early 50s, but probably more towards the 1820s side. It's made by a company called Wood, and there were strikes to the surface and a chip under the rim. People that bought it from me were from Massachusetts, and they had a home they were renovating, and they had found shards of an identical plate as they were doing renovations to their antique home. So when they discovered this on eBay, they were absolutely thrilled. And after, I mean, because it had damage to it, we're not talking something that's worth a fortune here. So I put it up for $49.99, and I sold it to them for $37, and they were delighted. They were putting it in a shadow box, and they're very happy. And that's always kind of cool to hear about. Here we have a lot of vintage ceramic porcelain drawer pulls. There were 21 of them, so some of them had the hardware, some of them did not. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't clean a lot of stuff. I know that sounds awful. Don't take that the way I actually said it. What I mean by that is I don't go and scrub away at the surfaces of many antique and vintage items because that actually affects the value in an adverse way. Here, I simply just never got around to it. Threw them up and they literally sold in 5 days for $44.99. And I had them on best offer, but they really wanted them, so out they went to Michigan for $44.99. Here we have a In His Light religious Christian throw blanket. It's one of those tapestry cotton deals, fringed about 50 inches by 60 inches. This was a design by Greg Olson, who does a lot of Christian prints and so forth. I sold this for $44.99. It should be noted that even if you're not into religion, that religious items sell very well because most of the world still is. I suppose we could save the debate about atheism versus being agnostic versus being religious for any day of the week, but suffice to say, as an eBay seller, which is what we talk about here, religious items are important to people, and if I see them out and about, I do pick them up. I got this fringed tapestry blanket for like $2 at a yard sale, and I moved this in under 2 months, so I shipped this to Georgia. So there you have it. Here is a Life is Good hat with a dog and backpack on it. And I sold this for $24.99. For some reason, usually it takes me a long time to sell anything by Life is Good. But this one only took me about 18 days. So I guess the dog with the backpack did it. Here we have a Glassboro State College coffee mug. It's a vintage coffee mug. And I think Glassboro turned into Rowan at some point. I'm not sure. Anyway, I sold this for $23 and shipped that over to Toms River, New Jersey. It took me a little under 3 months to sell that. This is a Kangol, what's called Furgora, Furgora, beret. So a woman's hat. Came with the tags. Very fluffy Angora. I saw that the comparables were somewhere around $29, even with the tags. I got this for $1 at a yard sale, and ended up selling it for $20, and shipped that to Brooklyn, New York. It took me a little under 2 months to sell that. Here's another one from that salvage that I was telling you about. That clothing on the side of the road from I guess it was like an eviction, but the people were long gone and their stuff was just sitting there, and they had a lot of clothing from the 70s through the 90s just sitting there in bags. So it was free, and I grabbed it all, of the clothing anyway. Nothing really interesting there otherwise, to me anyway, besides that. Anyway, this had a couple holes in it. It has the Adidas trefoil design, the classic and iconic green stripes across the top of the shoulders, and I posted that at $39.99. It did have quite a bit of damage to it, so I took a best offer of $20 on that, and that sold in a little under a month and a half. Here we have a pair of what I personally think are really ugly flats. This brand is called All Black. It sells primarily at Anthropologie, but they were, one of the reasons I picked them up was because, first of all, they're a size 14. So anytime I see like a really large shoe, like a woman's shoe, I will take a very close look at them and make a choice, because I find that you can do pretty well with larger size shoes. Anyway, this was an Anthropologie brand, so to speak, that you can buy that at Anthropologie, All Black. And I posted these for $49.99, ended up taking $25 plus shipping for them, and shipped that to Fredericksburg, Virginia, and that took me roughly 4.5 months to move. Alright, so pay attention. If you do not already know this, it's something you definitely want to be on the lookout for. It's a good bolo. These are cross-stitch kits by a company called Dimensions Gold Collection. Dimensions Gold Collection, I guess, is supposed to be their higher end kit. Dimensions does a lot of different cross-stitch and embroidery kits, but gold is a good one to look out for. Generally, you'll find them with how they look here, with a black shiny background and the kit picture on front. I found 7 of these in like lots of 3. It was like 332 at a thrift shop for $3.50 for each lot. So I just grabbed them and bought them without second thought. What I did end up doing, and I'll show you the other ones, what I did end up doing is selling most of them to people from overseas who, one of them claimed that I believe her, said that she bought them only for the covers because she kept like the front cover there and used that just to look at or decor or something along those lines. She didn't actually do the kits. So very interesting. But in general, a lot of people are really into Dimensions Gold Collection line. If you sort the sold auctions by highest price sold, I think you'll be amazed by some of the prices that Gold Collection goes for. I had one kit called United in Love. It was a wedding type kit, and I saw the other prices. I posted mine for $99 and it sold within literally 3 minutes at that particular time. It was just crazy. I don't know what the price is now. I sold that one like a year and a half ago. These kits are all very recent. So anyway, the first one here is called In Her Garden, and I listed this kit for I believe somewhere around $49, and I ended up accepting $29.99 for it because the same person bought about 4 kits from me. So I gave her a good deal on them because she was buying them in bulk. And here's another one bought by the same person, Dimensions Gold Collection, called Milady's Chateau. Generally, they're selling anywhere between $30 to $60. I priced mine at $49.99, but I sold it to the same lady for I dropped that one to $32 since she was buying a few of them at the same time. And moving on, Dimensions in general can do well. It just depends on the kit. Some of them are complete bombs, don't bother. You just have to check them. But in general, the gold line can be a pleasant surprise. So overall, I got a good deal. There's several more that sold that I'm not going to bother you guys about, but I think I've made the point that they're good. And this is actually I got confused because I sold this kit around the same time that I sold all the Gold Collection kits, and I just was kind of like, huh? But this is a quote-unquote regular Dimensions kit. It's a bunny rabbit sampler that I posted, and it took me almost 8 months to sell, and luckily I didn't mix them up with the Gold Collection ones for shipping. I listed it for $26, and I accepted 18 plus shipping on the best offer, shipped that to Georgia. This is a beaded belt. It's a Native American beaded tan leather belt, size 34. I got this and I wasn't sure how I was going to do. I don't often find true Native American beaded belts. I listed this one for $24.99 and took a best offer of 17 plus shipping and ended up selling that in 10 days and shipping it up to New York City. Here we have an antique Edwardian long wool paisley coat. I had high hopes for this thing. I personally really liked it. This is one of those things, I'm sure you've had it happen, where you are really enthusiastic about something and then it just bombs on eBay and you have no idea why. I kind of have I think I know why with mine. Sometimes you just love an item, but other people don't. But the problem with this is that it just had some missing buttons and some chews and damage to it. And at the time, there was a lot of paisley out there, Victorian paisley. So it didn't go over as well as I had hoped. I bought it at a specialty auction for $40, and this is one of the few where I made money, but by the skin of my teeth. Love that saying, don't you? I mean, what does that mean? Anyway, I ended up buying it for $40 with the premium and sold it for $79.99, and that took me over a year to sell. So all around, not a great performer, but I didn't lose my shirt. And last but not least for the time being, here's a pair of authentic Victorian black leather lace-up boots. Spectacular shape. They were in great condition. Here's another one that didn't nearly do as well as I had planned or thought. I bought these again at another specialty auction in a large lot of Victorian boots. Ironically, I had some that were in terrible shape, do far better than these, but I ended up paying about $50 for the lot of them. This was a specialty auction up in Gettysburg, and it was just one of those things where the weather was horrible and a lot of people didn't show up, and I got lucky. But in any event, I posted these for $199, and I ended up settling for $79.99, and that took me about 6.5 months to sell, and I ended up shipping those to Australia. Okay, well, let's talk about the basics for a minute in a non-lecturing but critical manner. That sounds really dreadful, sorry. Anyway, number one thing not to do when you're parked at a thrift shop, leave all your shit so that everybody can see it in your car. That is a poor thought process, people, because at some point that person's going to walk out in the future and find they've been smash and grabbed. There are thrift shops for a reason. Not everybody that shops there is going to be a kind and gentle individual. It's very easy to just simply reach in and take when you have an attractive target. What I would do if I was this person is I would smush everything down and throw a blanket over top. That way it just doesn't attract the sort of attention that it's attracting here. It's getting to be the season where it's good to kind of retool and use some self-critical analysis and think about what you're selling, whether or not you are pushing the sort of inventory that you want to push, and consider whether you need to change things. For example, the inventory that you have online, do you actually have it? Are you going to have to look an hour and a half for one item that's just lost? It's a good time to kind of maybe take a half hour every day until you get everything caught up, and just, have someone or yourself go through your inventory and just make sure that you do indeed have the items that you're selling. Your future self will thank you. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, and I am not pointing fingers, I mean, you guys listen to other sellers talk on YouTube, just like you listen to me, and I do the same. I don't care if an item is $2 or $2,000. You don't have to spend a fortune on presentation, but you're really going to dull the pleasure of receiving something if they open their package and find their item in some crinkled, obviously recycled plastic bag. What I like to do is enhance customer experience by at least ensuring them that the bag that I'm using is plain, or says thank you on it, and or is not used. I think that really can affect someone. I think that they don't appreciate spending, $40, $60, $100. They open their box and lo and behold, there's their item in some, bag that's been wrinkled up and stored and reused. I don't think people like that very much. Some people don't care, I agree. But I think whether they have a pet peeve with it or kind of feel on a subconscious level that they're not happy, I think that is an issue. I mean, I've been doing this long enough to kind of say, yeah, that's a problem. I try to avoid any brand bag. For example, I know it sounds crazy, but I don't use Family Dollar or Walmart or Kohl's or Macy's. I just try to find, like when I'm at a weigh and go or out and around, I keep an eye out for people go out of business all the time, and the new bags end up in a thrift shop, or heck, break the bank and buy some from Uline. It's really not that expensive. But it's better than causing your customer, I mean, they'll be kind of okay with like an obviously used box, but it really does on a conscious or subconscious level kind of irritate somebody when they have some sloppy bag and their items in a bag. I think it does. So do yourself a favor and get some nice, clean, unused, unwrinkled bags. That's my advice. And all right, guys, I'm sure you're tired of hearing me. Hope you find some fantastic stuff out there. And if you use the odds for a drinking game, my condolences, because you'd be dead by now. All right, guys, see you next time, and good hunting.